Hey everybody, thanks for joining me on Outside with Jeff. It's cloves out. So I've got 4, 6, 8, I've got 10 heads of garlic here. I'm just gonna start separating the cloves out. These are some really nice heads of garlic. I don't remember exactly what day I harvested these, but I did make a video on it. Those are some gigantic cloves. And when you plant the big cloves like this, you're gonna get really nice garlic production. Last year, when I planted from organic seed stock, I planted every clove that I had. So there were some small cloves mixed in there. But this year, since I had such an abundance of a harvest, I'm only going to be planting from the largest heads. That way I'll continue getting, the best crop every year. I feel like I harvested about 100 or so heads of garlic, and I'm only planting 10 of them. So it's going to leave me plenty for eating. And we've been using about 1 to 2 per week heads in the kitchen. So that 100 that I produced is really going to be just about right, because I also have elephant garlic too. So these cloves are just monstrous. That's awesome. That tells me that as long as Mother Nature cooperates, we should have an excellent yield. This one here has got some brown inside it. I don't want to plant that. I'm going to discard that. You only want to plant healthy. You don't want to risk introducing any type of disease or anything like that. You don't want to plant cloves that don't look good, because they would probably rot. They're going to be more susceptible to disease and to pest pressure. And honestly, the garlic we grew last year, we didn't really have any issues with disease or pest pressure. So I want to keep that out. These have all been storing in the basement for a couple months. At the beginning of this video, I said I wasn't sure, what day I harvested these or anything like that, but I did make a video on it, so I could go back and look if I wanted to see. But they've been in the basement for every bit of 2 months, so I'd say I harvested them maybe in June-ish time frame. The spacing I used last year on these was I went with a 2-inch spacing in all directions. And then the elephant garlic, I went with a little bit bigger of a spacing. I believe we're getting ready to plant our garlic. I've just taken my cloves, my heads of garlic, and I've separated all the cloves out. So now I have a bunch of loose cloves. I have raked my soil pretty level here, and now it's just going to be, and I just planted my elephant garlic in the previous video. So if you want to see what spacing I used and how I go about planting my elephant garlic, be sure to check out that video. But in this video, we're going to get right into regular garlic. Now last year, I bought organic garlic from our local co-op, and they don't sell any produce or anything that's not organic. So everything they have is organic. So I went and I got basically $5 worth of garlic from there. I don't even remember how many heads of garlic that was, but I got $5 worth of garlic. I planted it all out. I ended up with over 100 heads of garlic. So what I've done is I've taken my top 10 heads of garlic, I've separated them out, and what that has given me is I've got some really nice cloves. The bigger the clove, the bigger the garlic plant, and the bigger the head of garlic you're going to be getting when you plant. So this is what we're going to be planting. If you look at that, I wear a extra large glove, so you can kind of get an idea of just how big these cloves are. So, hey, let's get right into it. I'll discuss my seed spacing and everything you need to know about planting garlic. Okay, so if you just tuned into my other video, I just planted 2 rows of elephant garlic here. I went 4-inch spacing on that. So I'm gonna come over, I wanna give it about 4-inch spacing to the traditional garlic over. And what you're gonna do is there's 2 sides to every clove. You have the flat root side and you have the pointy top side. This is where the plant's gonna germinate out of. It's gonna grow out and give you a nice green plant. So you wanna plant root side down. I come about 2 inches from the wall of your raised bed, and you're just gonna push it until the very tip is just nearly exposed. And then last year I went with 1.5 to 2 inch spacing. I'm just eyeballing it. So I'm gonna go about that same spacing now, about 1.5, 2 inch spacing. I'll do the same thing here, about 2 inch spacing. These are some really big cloves, so I'm willing to do that 2 inch spacing. Last year, most of the cloves I planted were a bit on the smaller side, so I leaned more towards that 1.5 spacing. But like I said, with the size of garlic cloves I have here, I know I have some really good potential to grow some gigantic garlic, so I'm willing to give it just a little more space. If you're just starting this year and you're getting your seed garlic from the grocery store, or perhaps you ordered it from a seed supplier and your cloves are a bit smaller, I would do like I did last year and maybe go 1.5 inches. The plant's growing really thick, so they take care of their own weed pressure, which is what's really nice about planting with a more intense spacing. You take care of your own weed problems just by spacing them tightly. Weeds don't have a chance to really take hold in the garden. They get shaded out by your garlic foliage, and I definitely recommend planting them on a tighter spacing like I'm doing here. And as you can see, I'm not doing any measuring or anything like that. Eyeball spacing is good enough. Doesn't have to be exact. Within the row here, or between rows, I've got quite a bit more. It's probably like a 4-inch spacing, but that's more just because I kind of let it get out of line a little bit, but it's going to be just fine. There's really not an exact science to it, and there's really no need to make it any more complicated than it needs to be. Like I said, last year my garlic was an absolute success. It just did fantastic. I have no doubt that this year will be just as good, if not better. I did practice rotation. Garlic is in the allium family, as are onions. So if you, when you're planting, you want to make sure that you don't plant your garlic in the same spot it was the previous year. And you also do not want to follow onions or something else, leeks are in the allium family. You want to make sure that you're not following an allium with another allium. Okay, going really good so far. Little, there we go. This Beyond Peat mix that I have is really nice to push these cloves into. They just go right in that mix, no problem whatsoever. Once I get all these garlic cloves pushed in the ground, I'm going to grab a couple sticks, mark it on the other side, because they should kind of be dormant for, they'll take probably a week and a half before they start doing anything. But I'm going to, as soon as the leaves start to fall, I'm going to be coming by and mulching these pretty heavily. I'll give them probably, last year I think I did about 4 inches of leaves on top of them. And I'll be doing that again this year. Just whatever you have available to you. If you don't have a good source of leaves, if you don't have any trees in your yard, if you want to buy straw, that would work too. But I've got a really big tree in my yard, so I'm able to just rake up leaves every fall and use them. Kind of sticking these in the ground, use them as row markers. Because once I cover this up, and until they pop out, I'm not really going to know where they're at. So, okay, got them in there. Now you can either do this by hand, or you can take your rake and just lightly rake over them. I'm just going to go ahead and use my rake. Lightly rake over them. I'm just using the weight of the rake. I'm not putting any additional weight on there because I don't want to shift any of those cloves. I just want to gently cover them up. And like I said, you could easily use your hand for this. I've just chosen to use my rake. Tamp it down a little bit. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5 rows of garlic. I didn't count how deep. I'd say, if I had to guess, I'd say I just planted about 60 to 70 garlic cloves. And then plus about 20 elephant garlic. So in this space here, it's 51 inches this way, and I'd say I used about 3 foot this way. So, and that's my garlic bed. So it's really easy, depending on what zone you're in. I'm in zone 6B. Last year I planted the first week of September, everything went fine. Some people wait until the last week of September or middle of September, but it really isn't gonna make or break your crop. You just definitely want to wait until September. Sometime in September, plants will start getting established, mulch them over, and they're also heavy nitrogen feeders. You want to make sure you give them plenty of nitrogen, but you don't want to, I don't give them a lot of nitrogen in the fall. Once spring gets here, late winter, early spring, you want to hit them with something that's high in nitrogen. Whatever type of fertilizer you like to use, just use something high in nitrogen. The more top that you get out of the garlic, the bigger your bulb's going to be. So until next time, from my garden to yours, have a great day.